What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. We are back live. We've, of course, got Justin, Guitar Hero James, myself, but we have a guest today. We had a guest on Friday. It looks like we're having guests back-to-back, which is super cool. So on Friday, we had, of course, Jesse on fire, big MMA fan. Somebody helped us get our channel started. But here today, we have a huge guest. If you guys are familiar with Xtreme Couture, arguably the greatest MMA gym on the planet, we are very, very lucky to have the head coach of Xtreme Couture, Dennis. It's Dennis Davis, right?
Yeah, correct.
We have Dennis Davis, head coach of Xtreme Couture. So this is a massive get for the 10-7. We are so happy to have him. Obviously, it's because of Justin's relationship with Dennis that we get to have him on as a guest. So this is super cool. Dennis, I want to jump to you first because I think when people think of what's up, Tehran says, what's up? Barat says, I don't know what that icon is, but hey, what's up? Yeah. So as people are making their way in, Dennis, talk to us about Xtreme Couture, because I think one of the coach that people are super familiar with is, of course, Eric Nixick, because he does a lot of media interview. I know he works with Francis Ngannou, Sean Strickland, so he people recognize it. But like, tell us about your role. You're the head coach. I think people sometimes get it twisted, but you're the actual head coach. Can you tell us a little bit about your history of when you came to Xtreme Couture and all that?
Yeah, so I was originally with Randy Couture, the owner of the gym. I was with him at Team Quest up in Oregon. This was like 2000, 99, 2000 when I started with him. And then
we're getting Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going. We're getting a little audio cutting out. Hold on, Justin. Let me try and mute you. I'm wondering if there's background noise coming in that's blocking Dennis's audio. Let me try this. Okay, Dennis. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. So I was training with Randy up in Oregon at the original Team Quest, and then Randy had moved down to Vegas during the Ultimate Fighter, and then he opened this gym. He actually opened an Xtreme Couture in Washington and called me up and asked me to run that gym. And I told him I was still fighting at the time. I told him I just want to focus on fighting. And then he was like, well, why don't you move down to Vegas and train with me and Gray Maynard and Tyson Griffin and some guys close to my size. And so I was down a week later. And then that was basically, the gym had been open like a month about that time in 2007. So I've been here for 2007, and then at first I was coaching, kind of part-time, like the jiu-jitsu classes, and then I was fighting, and then once I retired from fighting, then I took over more of a full-time role with the amateur team, and then from the amateur team took over as the head coach of the pro team.
And now, Dennis, when you fought in mixed martial arts, what was your original background? Did you have a base in wrestling, in kickboxing? What was your background?
My original background was Kung Fu.
Oh, cool. Like Kevin Holland.
Yeah, Kung Fu. But there was, at this time, this was so fucking long ago that there wasn't no MMA gyms in the whole state I lived in. There was one jiu-jitsu gym, and that was 3 hours north. Again, I started training when I was 14, 15. So in my town, there was only a Kung Fu and then like a karate school. Obviously, Bruce Lee was a Kung Fu guy, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna do the Kung Fu stuff then. And I was doing that for a little while, and then realized like that shit's not really working. It's not that it can't work, against someone trained fat guy in the bar that doesn't know any element of surprise, of course, right? But like against anybody trained, most of it's not going to work. So as soon as I graduated high school, I moved up to Oregon, or not up to Oregon. I was living in Oregon, but I moved up to Portland, Oregon, which was the original Straight Blast gym. So we're like Conor McGregor trains that straight. The original one is in Oregon, and a guy, Matt Horton, is the guy that gave Conor's coach his black belt. That's where I was at training jiu-jitsu. And then I met a guy, Robert Follis, who was one of the coaches over there. And Robert Follis was coaching me. He was also like a kind of a training partner with Dan Henderson and Randy. And so those guys were kind of training on the side. And then they decided, hey, we're going to open up a gym, called it Team Quest. So basically they opened up a gym. Follis was like, hey, I'm leaving Straight Blast. I'm going to Team Quest. More than welcome to come over. And obviously they were a lot more like a fighting, because Randy had already had some fights in the UFC. So I was like, well, that's where I want to go. And so I went there. So Kung Fu background. Most people that watched me fight, though, I was more of a grappler. Obviously, after Kung Fu, the real stuff was jiu-jitsu. And then I was stuck in a room with Randy, Dan Henderson, Matt Lindland, who was a silver medalist in the Olympics, Chael Sonnen, and
Chael Sonnen.
Yeah. So
OGs of the game.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was basically like 6 Olympic All-American type wrestlers and me, who didn't know crap, and they just kicked the crap out of me. And then it's like, hey, finally they were like, all right, well, fuck, this guy's still showing up, so we might as well show him what a single leg is, and here's double leg is, and here's some defense. So my wrestling actually went out the roof, because I was training with those guys, and then they had a program, the Sun Kiss Wrestling, which I was jumping into those classes as well. So my wrestling jumped up. So when people started seeing me fight, they were like, oh man, where'd you wrestle at? And it's like, really, I never even put on shoes, but I can wrestle.
Learn from some of the greats in the sport. And by the way, Tehran says, I remember your fights, Dennis. Oh, Justin wants to chime in here. Sorry, I'll unmute you. There you go, Justin.
Yeah, no worries, dude. And Dennis is very humble in his bring, but dude, this guy's fought some of the toughest guys in the game. He's fought Nate Diaz. He's fought Clay Guida. He's been there.
Oh, Clay Guida, your favorite.
And, Clay Guida is one of my favorites. And that's one of the reasons I always wanted to get the matchup with Clay to kind of, Dennis. Back then you could knee in the head on the ground. And I remember Dennis saying that Clay was kneeing him on the head while he was on the ground. But he's one of those old OGs of the game, dude. And, we talk about doing everything right, doing your training preparation, doing your diet. Dennis always locked everything in, dotted all his I's, crossed all his T's. But at the end of the day, you got to get a little lucky. And, you can tell a story about how you were supposed to be on The Ultimate Fighter 2 or 3 times. They called you to say, hey, we're bringing you out The Ultimate Fighter. You show up. Didn't you make weight? And then the day of or the day before, they're like, actually, we're going with somebody else or something crazy like that.
Yeah, a few different times. Originally, I tried out for season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter. Now, again, I was like 154 pounds, soaking wet. Season 2 was Walter Waits. And Dana, and this is back when Dana was doing the interviews. That's how I knew it was. So Dana came in the room and looked at me, was like, man, you're a lightweight. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm a lightweight, even though really I was like a 45er, but there wasn't much fights at 45 at that time. And then he was like, man, we love you, just too small. And so that was the first go around. And then after that, season 5, they called me up out of the blue. I'm just sitting there, and then it was a phone call from UFC, and I was like, oh, it's it, I'm in. And they were like, yeah, we want you for season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter. So I was like, yep. I put all my stuff in storage. At this time, I was actually living, Josh Berkman, who fought in UFC a long time. He talked me into moving to Salt Lake for a little bit. So I was in Salt Lake training with him and some guys. And then when The Ultimate Fighter came, I put all my stuff in storage, went back to Team Quest. Again, this was before Xtreme Couture was around, and started training for the show, quit my job, basically started like using a credit card to eat and all that shit. And just racking up a big bill. But in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be on Ultimate Fighter. I'm going to make a little money from that. If I finish somebody, I'm going to get some money too. And then the week before taping, basically right after New Year's, because I remember like all my friends were trying to get me to go out New Year's, and I was like, nope, I'm locked in. And it was like 3 days after New Year's, they called me. I think filming on the 7th or something like that. And they called me, was like, hey man, we just got to let you know that we're going a different route, and we're going with the guy. And at this time, I think I had probably like 18 fights, and they put on a couple guys. One guy had 1 fight, one guy had no fights. And so I was just like, man, what the heck? But then looking back, they also cut Tyson Griffin, Clay Guida, Frankie Edgar. They cut a lot of big name guys. Again, I'm just thinking at this time, I'm thinking like they just want the best fighter. But in reality, they're like, yeah, well, we got a couple of good fighters, which Nate Diaz was on that. He had just beat me, probably like 6 months prior or something like that. So I think they went like, well, these guys are going to win the show, and all of them are going to be fill-in guys that are going to flip tables, start fights, all that stuff, which is, going to be ratings and stuff like that.
For sure. These are all names that I think a lot of longtime fans like Tehran are all familiar with. So this is crazy. But guys, I gotta get, go for it. And then I want to jump into the fights because this card was crazy. But go ahead, Justin. Take it away.
This is the last thing. So Dennis, we've talked about this on a couple shows now. Dennis's boys with Chael Sonnen. Dennis will back me up on this. I bet my whole purse on myself against Charles Rosa. And did I pay the coaches afterwards?
He paid the coaches. I still got paid.
Chael has gone on his channel, if you guys don't know, and basically said that he doesn't believe Justin bet his entire purse because Justin famously did that back in the day. He bet the full 25 or 20,000 or whatever. 20, so there you go, Chael. It definitely happened, and that we've corrected the record. Okay, let's get into the mix. This fight, I loved UFC 316 off the bat. I gotta say, I wasn't so much looking forward to even. I wasn't crazy about like the Joe Pyfer fight versus Kelvin Gastelum, but that ended up being a really great fight. I love Kevin Holland's performance, but we're going to start at the top because to me, this fight was so important for so many reasons. Now, obviously you guys know, or Justin, you know, I put money on O'Malley. I'm a fan of O'Malley. I was rooting for him. I thought that would have been really cool, but I did say that if Merab gets it done, it's still a happy ending because this might be the beginning of one of these incredible sort of unstoppable legacies, kind of like Khabib. And people are saying that. I've heard some people say that people were saying, hey, maybe Umar is going to be the new Khabib. No, it looks like Merab might be the new Khabib, where nobody seems to have an answer. I got to turn it over to you first, Justin, because I know you basically predicted what was going to happen, but I don't think anybody predicted that Merab was going to get a submission. That was part of the foundation of my prediction that, hey, man, Sean's got 5 rounds to work because I don't think Merab's going to get a submission. He got the submission. Justin, I need to hear your thoughts right off the bat as such a massive Merab fan, saying Merab is the GOAT of the bantamweight division. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've said it now. I've said it again, man. Merab, I think, is on way to be arguably the greatest bantamweight of all time. Some idiot the other day said, well, his resume is not that impressive. I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy has beaten champion after champion. We're talking about Jose Aldo, arguably one of the greatest featherweights of all time. We're talking about Sean O'Malley, former champion, not once, but he's beaten him twice. We're talking about Umar, who is 18-0 coming into the fight. We're talking about Peter Yan. I mean, the list goes on. He shot 50 takedown attempts against Peter Yan, and he did exactly what Sean O'Malley, just like I said he was going to. Sean wasn't able to keep up his pace, and, hats off to Sean O'Malley coming out. And his quote after the fight is, you know what? Merab's a motherfucker. And you know what? And that's what he said. And, he's hats off to him. He's like, he couldn't believe how overwhelmed he was with the constant pressure. And Merab's that guy. And they're even talking about doing genetic studies on Merab because his cardio is this is true too. I read this morning that they want to start doing studies on Merab because his cardio is off the charts, like no athlete they've ever seen before. Now, Dennis, in the same net, you've been around even longer than I have. I've been competing for 20 years. Dennis is competing for almost 40 years. What do you see when you look at Merab? Is it an anomaly compared to anything you've ever seen before?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen some guys with some good cardio as well. Clay Guida, right? Good cardio. When has that guy ever slowed down? So similar to that, this is what I would say, and this is what I've actually say for a long time, especially in this new age fighters. New age guys, they're wanting to do the easy work for the most part. They're wanting to go push sleds. They're wanting to go do this and that. And I always say the best cardio is getting in and actually wrestling and getting after it. And I know Merab does that. He gets in there and he grinds and he wrestles his ass off in practice and doesn't take the easy route. Where nowadays, I think so many guys don't want to wrestle and do all that because it sucks, and it's easier on the body to go, hit the airdyne and things like that. So I think a lot of more guys are doing that type of workout. And then you get a guy like Merab who's doing all the right things. Of course, his cardio is going to be on point.
How much of this recipe of his phenomenal card, and we got to talk about everything else, all the other ways that he improved, because I'm really blown away. And there's a ton to unpack. Even Tehran is chiming in saying, hey, I never understood why they did the rematch. And I think that's fair to say in retrospect, I think, but I was excited about the rematch. I thought there were some unanswered questions, but going back to Merab's cardio, you're saying he does all the right things, and I truly believe that because I know Justin's told me what a hard worker he is and what a great teammate he is. But how much of his tremendous cardio do you think is genetics, or you really just attribute it to his work ethic?
Yeah, well, I think he's obviously got some genetics behind it as well, right? But I do think if you do the right work, that's definitely going to help. So I think it's a little bit of both, right? He's probably a freak with his genetics, and he's doing the right work that helps it, right?
And that's
But
when you,
similar to like a Clay Guida, right? I know he's a wrestler guy. He wrestles his ass off, and I mean, really, when did he get tired in fights? So it's that same kind of guy, special for sure.
So, Justin, I want to turn it back over to you because we had a lot of conversations about Sean O'Malley, the labrum surgery, the improvements. You know, what was it really all that they were hyping it up to be? Now, I'm going to give you my thoughts, and I'm really curious to know what you think. I thought Sean O'Malley looked awesome. In the first round, I know he lost rounds 1 and 2. I think one judge gave him like round 2 or something random, but I felt like fine, Merab won, but I wasn't worried after the end of round 2 because I thought he did such a great job with the takedown defense. He was looking nimble. He was throwing kicks. He looked totally different to me. So I felt like Sean really had improved. The problem to me was that Merab seemed to have also improved and maybe even improved at a larger degree, which just gave him such a massive advantage. Justin, what were your thoughts on O'Malley's performance?
I thought he looked great, man. We're talking about, this guy's a former champion. Of course he's going to look great. But you know something that I talked to you? So Andrew Jacoby, we've had him on the show before, former athlete, or I shouldn't say former, he's one of the best athletic trainers in Vegas. I talked to him before, and he works with a lot of high-level athletes. He worked with the NFL. He works with the NBA. He works with UFC fighters. He hates, it's a big pet peeve of mine, when fighters or athletes change dramatic things in their life before competition. So I talked to him. He doesn't like when guys, Sean O'Malley, stopped smoking weed, stopped jerking off, stopped watching porn, started doing all these things different than he's ever has before. For all his fights leading up, all the victories he's had leading up to this point, he did all those things. Look, and he was winning fights. So he has a firm, it's not a fact, but he has a theory when athletes change big things in their life. I got this guy named Vince Lahar. Now, this is a crazy statistic. I went to college with him. He was a phenomenal wrestler. He was a state champion several times in high school. I was fortunate enough to go to college with him and learn from him. Vince, and I'm not talking shit about him, and I'm going to keep it light, but he liked to drink and he liked to party, all right? And he could drink and party all week and then show up on Saturday hungover and win a tournament. He could go to the national tournament. He was placing in the nation. So his senior year, our coach, Brandon Brissett, comes out and is like, Vince, you're such a good athlete. It's your senior year. Let's dot all our I's and cross all our T's. Let's stop drinking. Let's start getting our hydration right. Let's start getting our training right. So Vince bought into it. Vince didn't even make it out of the region. He went 0-2 in the regional tournament and then went home. So we're talking about his freshman year, his sophomore year, his junior year. He went to the national tournament. He competed with the best wrestlers in the world. And then his senior year, he changes his whole life to better off for his last year. And he went to the 0-2 barbecue at the regional tournament. So there is good, positive theory behind this. Now, is it for sure Vince would have, because Vince, and I talked to him afterwards, and he's like, the thing about when he was hungover, he was so mad that he had to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, hungover, make weight, and he was pissed. So when he went into his matches, he had this chip on his shoulder of, you know what, you made me wake up and I'm going to fucking punish you for it. And that was his theory. And then he said he felt so good his senior year that he never had that. He kind of was almost, he was half asleep behind the wheel when he was wrestling because he didn't have that anger and that internal combustion to make him want to take it out on his opponent. And it's because he was so chill and his sleep schedule was perfect his senior year. And I feel Sean O'Malley might have had something similar to that. I'm not going to say that exact, or maybe Merab is just that good and it didn't matter what Sean did going into the fight.
Well, Dennis, let me ask you exactly that, because that's what I want to know too. Do you think, like, do you think he made a mistake, like Justin's saying, or do you think Sean actually did all those things and actually looked amazing? But the issue is that Merab is just incredible on another level, kind of like Khabib.
Yeah, I thought Sean looked much better in his first fight for sure. So maybe it was the right thing, who knows? But or maybe it was, he really was injured and all that stuff before. But with like what Justin's saying, I know that as well through some fighters. My boy Chris Lieben back in the day, right? Like that guy used to, his UFC debut, he called me the night before to pick him up, and I pick him up and he's hammered. And this is the night before, and then he goes out and smashes the guy. Then he started getting more cleaned up, right? And then like all of a sudden, like Justin's saying, you get guys like, oh, well, now everything's so perfect and I'm supposed to win and things like that. Now maybe their head gets a little different. I thought in this case, though, Sean looked great. It was just he fighting the wrong guy. I'm always a guy, and you can go. I'm a big statistic guy. Most grapplers are always going to beat the strikers for the most part, right? I'm not saying a striker can't win, but like you look at most of the champions, things like that, they come from a wrestling gritty background. And this is what the case is there. You got a phenomenal striker who's obviously worked a ton on trying to stop the takedowns. He just couldn't. And it caught up to him at the end of the fight.
But we also saw good striking from Merab. People were very impressed with some of the big, heavy shots that he landed. So it just seems like Merab might be it's so exciting because he's already this good, already this dominant, and he's continuing to level up at almost a pace that you would think is impossible, because when you're the champ, you would think that you're going to have diminishing returns in terms of your growth, but somehow he's like defying the odds. His striking improved drastically. He got a submission, which he hasn't had a submission, I think, in the last 10 fights. So it's really, really exciting. Now I want to come back to talk to Merab, but before about what's next, he's going to fight Corey Sandhagen is what it seems to be, which is very exciting. But before we come back to Merab, the thing about this, the way that this fight ended up is it seems a little dire for Sean O'Malley. And maybe you might disagree, but I'd love to know both of your thoughts. Maybe I'll turn it over to Justin first. Where does Sean O'Malley go from here? Does he fight Umar? Does he fight somebody in 135, or does he move up? What do you think?
I don't think he moves up. I think he's too small of a frame. Like when I stand next to Sean, me as a 45er at 5'7", I'm just so much bigger than him in every way. My shoulders are bigger, my arms are bigger. I have a bigger chest, big legs, and he's just so small, and I think he has to stay at bantamweight. I don't think Umar's a good matchup for him. I think Umar's going to do the same thing, and I don't want to see him lose 3 fights in a row because he's going to lose so much. I think the UFC needs to do him a favor, give him a tune-up fight, let him get a win back, hopefully get a win back, and then reevaluate from there, maybe fight Umar after that. But right now, I don't see – you look at – when I was standing next to Aljamain Sterling is a big featherweight, man, and I think he's just so much bigger than Sean O'Malley. Or if he does go to featherweight, maybe give him the rematch with Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling said he had a hard cut to bantamweight. He says that he'd welcome Sean into the featherweight division. But again, I just think Sean is too small. I think Sean is going to have to reevaluate with his coach Tim, and decide what's next. But fighting someone like Umar next is not the right call. I think it's the same outcome.
I think that I get what you're saying. I guess though,
how about Mario Batista? Mario Batista, 8-fight win streak. I think Mario Batista in the top 10 is the one that deserves the title shot over Sandhagen. I know right now because I'm on my phone, so I can't look at the stats. But I think Sandhagen's like 2-3 or 2-2 in his last 4, or maybe he's 2-1. But we're talking about Mario Batista, who just beat Patchy mixed convincingly. We're talking about a world champion in Bellator. We're talking about a guy that's been on an incredible win streak. He had all the hype coming into the UFC. Batista handles him. He's on an 8-fight win streak. I think Batista deserves the next shot.
Wait. Let me throw this in there from Tehran real quick, and then I want to turn over to Dennis what Dennis thinks next, what should be next for O'Malley. But look at this. Wait, I kind of like this. Tehran says O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo.
I saw this matchup already. I saw this proposed. Henry was kind of clowning Sean a while back. Sean was getting interviewed, and Henry's like, "Come on, sweetheart, let's go." I think Sean kills Cejudo. I think he's not just looking for a big paycheck. That would be a good matchup. Cejudo's a little over the hill. He hasn't looked good in his last several fights. I think that'd be a great payday for Cejudo. I think it'd be a great fight for him to retire on. And he's going to get the payday that he deserves. Not to mention the cringy shit talk that Cejudo's going to bring to that press conference. And I like Sean O'Malley's shit talk too. And, even after Sean O'Malley was calling him sweetheart and princess, he's like, this guy is just so cringy. I can't get over it. And he is, and that's what he sells his name on. So I'm okay with that Cejudo matchup as well.
I love it, Tehran. That's a great suggestion. Dennis, what are your thoughts? Where do you see Sean going next, or what would you like to see for Sean?
Yeah, I like the Cejudo fight. I think that'd be a fun build-up as well. Besides that, I actually like, and I'm horrible with pronouncing some names, but the Asian kid from Alpha Male, is it Young?
I know who you're talking. Hold on.
Is it Yang Sedong?
Yeah, Yang Sedong. Yeah.
The name, but style-wise, I would like to see that. That kid's, I think he's ranked like number 5 right now. Good striker, heavy hands. That could be a good stand-up fight, and that is either going to put Sean kind of back into it, or it's going to take that kid to maybe a title contender.
Yeah, Song Yadong is super fun to watch, and that's right, Team Alpha Male with your under Uriah Faber. That'd be a cool fight too. I don't know though, Tehran, you won me over. I love the Henry Cejudo idea. I think it's an interesting matchup. I think Sean can get it done, and like you said, maybe Henry takes that fight, gets a big payday, walks off into the sunset, and it's going to be a really, really fun build up. They hate each other. If you remember, Sean super trolled both Kamaru Usman. Well, actually, it was Henry Cejudo. He went on their show and just was like, Kamaru, you're a legend. Henry, you absolutely suck. And he just like bounced off. It was the funniest thing ever. So this would be tremendous. All right, now let's go back to Merab. Holy smokes. What a legacy he's building. How incredible of a fight was that? You, Justin, you want to see him fight Mario Batista. I think most people are saying it's going to be Corey. I personally, I'm a big Corey Sandhagen fan, so maybe that's the bias in me, but I'd love to see Corey Sandhagen go up there. I'd love to see him finally get a shot. I think it will be Corey Sandhagen is what it seems to be. But Dennis, what would you like to see for Merab, and where do you think he's going to go in the sport? Do you think he's going to get people are even saying he should be pound for pound #1 right now. I mean, where do you think this train is going to go to?
Yeah, I really see him, staying where he's at. I think I don't see anyone in the top guys that are really going to challenge him right now. Again, not saying he can't get clipped or, can't lose, right? Shit happens. But I think he's going to be at top for quite a while. I know it was a bad performance over the weekend, but I do think probably style-wise, the toughest would be probably Patchy, style-wise. A guy with phenomenal grappling, even though he didn't get to see it over the weekend. But that would be, I think, one of Merab's toughest fights in the division. But besides that, I think Merab stays at top for quite a while.
And we're gonna talk about Patchy Mitch. I know both of you guys train with Patchy, and Justin's always told me such great things about Patchy Mitch.
Patchy last night, so I got some good insight.
We're gonna talk about that as well later on. So make sure guys to stick around for when we talk about Patchy Mix, because as I mentioned, both these guys are very, very familiar with him. We'll see what's coming up next for him. But let's move along to Kayla Harrison stealing the show. What a legend. Remember, I've been telling you all week how excited I was for this fight. I think we were all on the same page. That's why the odds were the way they were. She was like -600, -700. In my opinion, but I want to hear your guys' opinion. In my humble opinion, I felt like it was pure domination. It didn't even look like two fight. I couldn't even believe we were watching a championship fight. I don't remember Peña getting anything of significance off whatsoever. Kayla Harrison completely smothered her, overwhelmed her, and then got the Kimura with like 5 seconds left in round 2. I mean, how crazy is this? Justin, let me turn over to you first. What's your takeaways from this performance, which I can only call incredible, but what are your thoughts?
Watched a lot of tape on Kayla Harrison. Dennis has cornered against her a whole bunch of times.
Oh, wow.
When me and Dennis were coaching Elena Kolesnik for a long time, or for Dennis, I only coached her for one fight. But I was watching Elena's fight against Kayla. Taylor Gordado, another girl that's a stud girl that's actually taken me down in wrestling, fought Kayla. And, she always talks about how strong she is and how good she is. So, honestly, in this fight, it was kind of an underwhelming fight. The fight went exactly how I thought it was going to. I thought Kayla was going to get in there and dominate her. She did. There was no surprise there. I wasn't excited. I wasn't thrilled because, again, the excitement would have been if we would have saw something good out of Peña. Like, oh, man, Peña actually has a chance. But from start to finish, from first round, for the first ding till she finished her in the second, there was no surprise there. So I'm not going to say the fight was underwhelming, but it went exactly how I thought it was going to go.
And I understand that, but I guess let me give you my 2 cents why I loved it so much. When I'm a huge fan of somebody and I can see that they just have achieved different levels it's like they've broken through a barrier and shown us like the depths of human potential. That to me is very exciting. So just like when we saw Khabib dominate, even seeing Merab's amazing performance, watching Kayla be so dominant against the purported best in the world at 135 to me was so cool and so impressive. That's why I absolutely loved the performance. Dennis, let me turn it over to you. What was your? Oh yeah, go for it.
No,
yeah.
not yet, but after Dennis's. Before you switch, in case you switch to the next topic too quick.
Oh, no, I want to chat a little bit about Kayla because I'm really curious to know also what you guys think should be next in terms of her fight against Amanda Nunes, what weight class it should be. Well, we're going to keep talking about this. But Dennis, yeah, what was your takeaway? How good is Kayla in your opinion?
Yeah, I already knew Kayla was fantastic. Like Justin said, I'd cornered against her twice. With a couple of my females, Taylor Godardo being one, who I believe Taylor's one of the best girls in the world, especially with her grappling. And so I know how good Kayla is. And I didn't think Peña was going to be a problem at all. So, yeah, it went exactly how I thought. Like, I knew Peña can out-grapple Kayla, and I don't really see any girl in the division handling Kayla. My only thing in the fight that I could have thought was, again, the weight cut. I know Kayla is huge. When I cornered against her, that fight was at 55, not 35. So,
Whew.
yeah, so for me to see her actually make the weight and be able to compete, in my head, I'm like, she needs to go out there and get after her early to finish, because I thought the longer it went, the better it would be for Peña. But I didn't think it was going to go past 3 myself, and obviously it didn't.
I want to talk about the weight going forward in a moment. Ali Abdelaziz actually said that he hopes that the next fight is going to be at 145. I feel strongly about that as well, but we're going to come back to that. But another thing I want to chat about, the one successful shot that I think Juliana Peña got was an illegal shot. She had kicks, up kicks that landed to Kayla Harrison's face, multiple actually, strikes, kicks to a grounded opponent. And I got to talk about this because I was so happy that this happened. And it's like about time that the referees, there's no warning, because why should there be a warning? It bothers me so much. You both know the rules. You know it's an illegal strike. Why do you need a warning? That fight, and she could have broken Kayla Harrison's nose. Kayla Harrison said her nose was messed up, but thankfully everything was okay. We'll see what happens in the aftermath. How happy, Justin, let me turn over to you. How happy were you? Or were you happy? Maybe you disagree with me, but what was your feelings about the fact that the ref immediately, nope, I'm taking a point away and we're moving on?
I mean, that's what the ref's there for. He's supposed to make those calls. I wouldn't say I was happy. I was neutral to it.
Okay.
Sometimes you get lucky and you get that call, and sometimes you don't. It's a part of the game. Fortunately for Kayla, the referee was on spot on that fight and didn't let Peña get away with those illegal strikes. But at the end of the day, sometimes you get the good calls and sometimes you don't. So fortunately for Kayla, she got the call.
I'm thrilled, and I hope that's the direction that the UFC refs go into. It's like, I just don't see I don't understand. Why do you need a warning for an eye poke? Why do you need a warning for a groin shot? Like, we all know that these are illegal. If you land them, I just think it causes damage in the fight, and a penalty is warranted. Let me show one of these comments real quick. Cayman Ryder might be a new listener, new follower. Welcome to the show. Don't recognize your name, but thank you so much. Hope you're enjoying it. Merab just outstruck O'Malley on the feet. Second round, all standing. Merab popped O'Malley's face over and over. Sure threat of takedowns there, but still it's MMA, and standing Merab still won. Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. I know we've chatted about the Merab O'Malley fight already, but yeah, how unbelievable did Merab look on the feet? That was so crazy. And again, just a testament to him constantly improving. Okay, I want to. Oh yeah, go ahead, Dennis. Chime in.
Yeah, I think some of that, again, he's improving for sure. But again, I think when you got such a threat on the grappling side, that makes your hands way better than they are. I'm kind of an example of that. My hands were decent, but not at an elite level. But because of my grappling stuff, I could fake shots and outstrike guys that had better hands than me, because it was an MMA fight and not a kickboxing match.
Totally. Yes. And I think we've seen that with Bilal Muhammad. Even Habib, like, we've seen it with so many fighters over the years. When your grappling is tremendous, it makes you into an incredible striker. I've even heard people say that the best striker, okay, this is a controversial take because it's like not pure striking, but the best striker in the UFC is actually Islam, because of the combination and the way that there's always a takedown threat makes his strike, and his striking is already very good anyways, but it just makes his striking absolutely unbelievable and difficult to predict and counter, because you got to worry about the takedown threat. So I think there's a lot to what you just said. Now, Dennis, coming back to Kayla and what's next, Ali Abdelaziz said that he hopes this next fight, because we know it's going to be Amanda Nunes, which is going to be huge. I cannot wait for this fight. I'm so happy it's happening. And by the way, guys, we got a lot of people on the stream right now. Thank you so much for joining. If you guys could drop a like on the stream, we'd really appreciate it. Our channel is growing at a very rapid rate. We are having a blast. We are excited. So if you're enjoying the stream, you want to give us a like, we'd appreciate it. But anyways, Dennis, for this next fight, would you also like to see them bring back the 145-pound division and let Kayla and Amanda fight there? Because this division used to exist. Amanda's the former 145 champ, and I don't want to see Kayla cut weight, because I feel like she's really taking years. It feels terrible to me that she's so amazing. They're making her go through this. What do you think?
Yeah, I would like it at 45. Hey, if both fighters have fought or could make that weight class. You know, Amanda's fought there before, so if they don't have to cut the weight, then why? Now, that being said, if I was Amanda's coach, right, depending on where she's sitting, I might want it at 35 though, right?
Yeah,
because
that's what
make Kayla suffer to make it, and then how's Amanda going to win if she wins? By hands, right? She's going to have to clip her. What's the best way to clip her if she's cut a bunch of weight and got a weak chin? So if I was on Amanda's side, I would try anything I could to make it at the lower weight class and make Kayla have to suffer and maybe have a success chin on top of it.
I figured that that's probably what Amanda's corner can do. It just bums me out so much. I feel it makes me feel terrible because Kayla's my favorite. You know, she's got, and on top of her fighting ability, she's got such a great personality, such a great heart. I just admire her in so many different ways. And I feel like they're just torturing her and making her go through these weight cuts that are literally taking years off her life. Justin, what are your thoughts on Amanda versus Kayla? Do you have a strong preference one way or the other in terms of the weight class?
No, I think it's just going to come down to what Amanda can make. She's taking some time off. Kayla's obviously having a hard time. And as her career gets on, we talked about this last week, the weight cuts are going to get harder. And I'm speaking from experience. As you get older, as you do it more, I know Dennis has had some brutal weight cuts before. If I'm not mistaken, you've done 25 pounds in 24 hours or 12 hours or something like that.
Yeah, the most I did was 17 day of, which for a guy at 45, that was a lot. That was a short notice fight. So normally I wasn't that heavy, but that one I just took 17 pounds. So yeah,
these weight cuts add up over the years. You know, Dennis was around for a long time. I'm telling you, like I mean, you can ask Dennis. Like I thought when I fought for World Series of Fighting. If you remember, I was 185 pounds the day before. I made 155, not with ease, but I got done it. But now, as you notice, as I've gotten later in my career, I fucking hate getting in the tub. I break within the first couple hours. And before it wasn't like that. Now you look at Kayla, she's already achieved. She's the UFC champion. What's her motivation? Okay, now she can beat Amanda Nunes, who's arguably one of the greatest. But then after that, there's only one more match that I'd be excited to watch Kayla fight, and she's already lost to the girl. And I think her name is, and Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Pacheco?
Yeah, Larissa Pacheco.
Larissa Pacheco, man, fights in the PFL. She has beaten Kayla Harrison. All right, I think Kayla beat her the first time. Pacheco beat her the second time. Now, let's see. She brings Amanda Nunes. She goes there and starches Amanda Nunes or handles Amanda Nunes. You bring Pacheco over from the PFL. You have this super fight for the best of three, and that's a great way for Kayla to go out.
Yeah. So yeah, they've actually fought 3 times already. Kayla had beat her twice early on, but Larissa beat her the last time they fought. The only downside with that would be, man, I don't know if Larissa could even make 35. Larissa is a tank as well. I've cornered against her, and so if they did it at 45, I would love to see that. But at 35, I just don't know if Larissa could make it, or if Kayla would even want to go if they both could do 45.
Even better in that sense. She goes up, she beats Amanda Nunes at 145. She's the double belt champ now. She's the bantamweight and the featherweight champ of the women's division. Now bring Pacheco over, solidify that she's the best in the world in their 4th fight for the UFC.
That would be cool. I'd be down for that. I don't know if UFC fans would be. I know about Pacheco just because I'm a Kayla Harrison fan. Maybe they don't know so much about her, but bring her over, hype it up, build it up as, hey, she's the last person to beat Kayla. I think that would be awesome. I just hope whatever happens with Kayla Harrison, that they just create the 145-pound division basically for her, and then maybe other people will move up as well who have a rough weight cut. But that's what I hope. We shall see. All right, guys, let's move it along to the next topic. Kevin Holland, what a legend. And guys, one more time, I'm just going to mention, we got a bunch of people on the stream. If you guys could click that like button, if you're enjoying the show so far, that would really help. It helps the channel tremendously with the engagement. So just encouraging you that again. But Kevin Holland, Justin, I thought Kevin Holland, I don't know. Maybe I was totally off here. A lot of people were picking Kevin Holland. I thought Vicente Luque was going to get the job done. Vicente Luque has been at the top of the division. I know maybe he's had some losses here and there in the last few years, but he's such a talented and dangerous fighter. But Kevin Holland looked like the superior fighter, looked incredible. And he called out Kobe Covington. What a legend. Justin, what's your takeaway from this performance?
Man, I thought Luque was going to get him, to be honest. I saw that Kevin Holland was the favorite in the fight. I saw value in the line for Vicente Luque. I think Vicente Luque takes training very serious. I think he takes fighting very serious. When I look at like Kevin Holland, who I think is a superstar athlete. I think he's a great fighter, but I don't think he's doing everything right off the camera. I don't know how serious he takes training, the way he talks, the way he walks. He's a great entertainer, and he's going to be a great gatekeeper for the UFC. But I thought Vicente was going to win this fight just by doing the right things when the camera isn't on.
That's what I thought as well. Dennis, one thing that I noticed in the Kevin Holland, I mean, first of all, he got a submission. I don't even know the last time Kevin Holland's got a
black belt.
submission.
He is a black belt.
I do know that. I do know I know people always say that he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And I mean, he's a black belt. I'm not disputing that, but he hasn't gotten a submission in super long time. So I was kind of impressed and blown away that he got that submission victory. On top of that, when Vicente Luque was trying to take him down early on, I mean, he was just peppering him with some really great strikes, obviously showcasing that speed. Dennis, now that Kevin Holland might be cracking the top 10 soon, which I think a lot of people didn't predict, calling out Colby Covington, making some moves, where do you see his career going?
Yeah, it just depends. At 70, I think it's better for him with that range and length he has. One thing like Justin, one thing I wanted to say, you said he had a black belt or whatnot. Nowadays, I think fucking anyone in UFC, if someone starts coaching them, they hand them a black belt. So just because people got black belts now, I don't think I rate some people's ground games like you should, right? Just my opinion. But going forward, yeah, I don't think Kevin will probably ever be a contender. More like Justin said, more like a gatekeeper.
But what about does this victory change your mind at all, or you still feel like he's gonna?
No. And again, like you said, Luque, he's fallen off, my opinion, right, compared to where he was, say, 2 or 3 years ago. I think 2 or 3 years ago, Kevin wouldn't have won this fight. And again, sometimes age, wear and tear, sometimes just fucking life gets in the way of things, and maybe what your goals before aren't what they are now, and maybe you're still doing things for paychecks. I don't know his story, but he's not fighting like he used to, right? Sure. So I think Kevin got him at the perfect time for himself, even though he's coming off a win. He's coming off a win against a guy who's newer to the UFC, right? I've actually cornered against. So yeah, I thought it was a perfect time. And I think that's why Kevin, is also calling out Colby Covington. It would be a perfect timing for a guy like that as well. Again, that kind of puts him, his name out there like he's beaten these high level guys. Again, Colby, he's fallen off a lot compared to where he was, 5 or so years ago.
Dennis, and by the way, for you guys who are just joining right now, Dennis Davis, head coach of Xtreme Couture, arguably the best MMA gym in the world. Dennis, what's your opinion in that matchup? I don't think Colby Covington will take the matchup. I don't think he's going to fight. He's going to fight Kevin Holland. But if they do that fight, how do you see it going?
Yeah, I would say Kevin, right? Because really, if you look at when Colby was doing good, it's when he was mixing in his wrestling, his feinting, his punching, right? Like when he fought Lawler, right? Like that was one of the best MMA fights around as far as like using your wrestling and hands and chaining things together. He looked amazing in that fight. And then like after he did that, then it was like, oh, I'm a kickboxer now, which he is not. And like most of his fights, he just kind of stands there and trades. And I think if he stands and trades with Kevin, I think Kevin gets the edge on that.
All right. Well, I hope they make the fight. We need to see Colby back there at some point with somebody interesting. I still say Ian Gary, but I think Colby wants nothing to do with Ian Gary. We're going to jump ahead. I'm going to actually skip over this topic in the interest of time. I was going to talk about John Jones. I know Justin is so tired of this topic, but Dana White did talk about it. We'll talk about it later. I'll make a separate video. Let's go to Patchy Mix because you guys both know and train with Patchy Mix regularly. And we just went to Dennis. Let me go back to Justin, then we'll go to Dennis. Justin, you said you talked to Patchy Mix after this fight. I know a lot of people are wondering what's going to be next after. Yeah, just kind of give us your breakdown of the performance and what Patchy said to you specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Patchy, just kind of looked flat, coming out flat, didn't use his wrestling like he normally does. He's going to contribute it to a tough weight cut. He had a tough weight. I just talked to him last night. He had a tough weight cut. And, it's from experience, man. I mean, I've had tough weight cuts when I fought Gavin Tucker, man. I was after the first round, I was so done that like I was just trying to stay on my feet, literally not fall over from being so exhausted. And unfortunately, I have a good corner like Dennis, and they got me motivated for about 1 minute in the third round. But unfortunately, I ate that flying knee and it stumbled me back, and it was the beginning of the end for me. But man, I tell you what, fatigue makes cowards of all of us, man. It doesn't matter how tough you are. And Patchy to me is one of the best fighters in the world, even best pound for pound fighters in the world. But
Wow.
that doesn't matter. That skill set doesn't matter. Once you get tired, you're tired, man. And that's why Merab, I think, is so impressive because he just never gets tired. And, unfortunately, Patchy's human just like the rest of us. And, he had a bad weight cut and he got tired.
Justin, can you give us any, without betraying any confidences, obviously, but, or maybe you can even speak generally, like, how does that usually happen when you have a bad weight cut? Is it just it's unpredictable every time, or are there maybe usually a culprit like maybe sleep difficulties or the diet doesn't go like what usually is the culprit behind these weight cuts that don't go as planned?
Man, I don't really know. I can't really say because there's been times to where I'm on my diet, I'm doing everything right. After practice, I'm a big advocate of walking on the treadmill for long periods of time to lose weight. Obviously, it doesn't help your cardio, but it does get you in a fat burning state. I've had some incredible fight camps, and then for whatever reason, I get down within 5, and it's not that I'm not sweating. I'm just not losing weight like I used to, and I've missed weight a couple times, mostly because of its short notice. And I believe that Patchy's fight was kind of short notice. I believe he said it was like 3-week notice he had, coming into the fight. And depending on where he was 3 weeks out, I mean, Dennis will be able to elaborate a little bit more than I will. But I think it was a short notice pickup on this fight. He showed up. He did what he could do for the 3 weeks. And unfortunately, when you don't have a full fight camp and you can't, because when you have a full fight camp, you can plan for things going wrong. You can plan for things. Oh, fuck, I'm a month out. Like we have target ranges through a fight camp. So say I start a fight camp at 185. Well, by the time I'm 4 weeks out, I want to be 178 or 175. And then by the time I'm 1 week out, I want to be under 170 to make lightweight. And then if I'm not, things happen in there, and it could be hydration, it could be diet, it could be so many different variables. And Patchy to take this on 3-week notice and do what he could do against a very tough Mario Batista who's on a 7-fight win streak. Patchy will be back. He's gonna do everything right to make his way back, and I expect the second fight, you guys are gonna see who the real Patchy Mix is.
Dennis, I'd love to turn it over to you to get your thoughts on the fight outcome and what you think is in store for Patchy going forward.
Yeah, kind of what Justin is saying. I know, I help coach Patchy, and I know he's a big guy at 35. And I know 3 weeks ago when we got the call, he was heavy, right? So I knew going into the fight, like that was a concern of mine of like, can he make the weight? How's he going to look after the weight cut? And then you see him, he went in there round 1 and basically wasn't even fighting. He was just kind of standing in place. And sometimes that little voice in your head starts going like, oh, if I start like pressing him in the cage and doing the things he needed to do, I'm going to gas myself out. So then he's sitting there and he's kind of like, maybe I wait a little bit and get my time and then maybe time a shot. And then then all of a sudden he's eating crosses and getting busted up a little bit. So definitely, I don't think the weight cut helped at all. Patchy is much better than he showed for sure. I know the notes I gave him was really pressing Batista to the cage. Batista is great at defending double legs out in the open. He struggles a little more of like body work, clinch, and body locks on the cage, which Patchy is phenomenal at, and he never even got there. And so some of that was just like Patchy sitting there and waiting. Again, another thing people don't realize, Patchy hasn't fought in like over a year, right? That doesn't help as well. So short notice, over a year. Most of his fights are 5 rounds. So it's like, okay, again, I'm just trying to think of things in the back of his head. Is he sitting there going, oh, I got time to figure this guy out, because that's what his body's just naturally used to, along with the weight cut, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, all the guys that are probably talking shit, those are probably the same guys talking shit on Merab that went 0-2 as well when he started. So like Justin says, right, Patchy's going to be back, and you'll see exactly who Patchy is, because I see what he does to some of the top guys in the world in the gym on a daily. So no doubt Patchy will be back.
All right, very cool, and that's exciting to have a new contender in the bantamweight division. I'm excited to see him fight again. We got a new comment from D-Mac, might be a new follower. I'm not sure. He says Merab beats Volk at featherweight. Who knows at this point? He very well could. But we want to before we wrap up the show, I want to turn it over to Dennis because he has a fighter that he's been working with as of late that I wanted to give a little shine to that we could chat about real quick. And so, Dennis, let me turn it over to you. And you can tell us a little bit about this up-and-coming fighter that you're so excited about that you've been working with.
Yeah. You're probably talking about, I know we talked a little bit before about Biaggio. So it's Biaggio, Ollie Walsh, PFL fighter. He is now 2-0 as a pro, and he's fighting at the end of the month again against a kid at PFL in Chicago. He's fighting against a kid who's 1-0. And he is 2-0. And so, yeah, this guy has got a bright future for sure. He heavy hands, one of the fastest learners I've ever had. He's only been training a little less than 4 years, and he's already in the PFL. So sky's the limit for this guy.
Now, it says right here that his grandfather is Muhammad Ali, which is crazy. Did he start off in boxing, or is that where he got his training when he was younger?
No, so no boxing. He actually was a football kid. He played football.
Oh, wow.
And then after football, he just came into the gym. I was coaching him maybe like 8 months. The kid's humble. I didn't even know who his grandfather was. He's just a kid that's in the gym and just like everyone else, right? And then I just seen like, dang, this kid's an athlete. He's picking things up quick. Mm-hmm. And then after about 8 months, then some other guys were like, yeah, you know who his grandpa is, right? And I'm like, no, because Biaggio won't ever go out and talk about it himself, unless someone asks him. And so
that's awesome.
So then it was brought out, and I was like, oh shit, that's cool. And then Biaggio was like, hey coach, I would like to maybe join the amateur team, never to fight, just to like spar and stuff. So I was like, yeah, of course. So, and I told him, I was like, yeah, we could use a great body. If I never push anybody. If they don't want to fight, then you shouldn't fight. And
right.
Then he was in the amateur team for probably about a month. And was like, I want to fight. And again, he had only done kickboxing with me for probably about a year at this time. And then about a month of amateur team. Then he took his first amateur fight. He lost that by, and that was at 170. He lost that by a choke. And then he came back and he's like, man, like, I really want to get serious about this. I was like, well, if you want to get serious about it, then you need to start showing up to grappling practice. And then so he started showing up to grappling practice. And working on his takedown defense and stuff like that. And oh my gosh, now this kid is almost impossible to take down. His grapplings came up like you wouldn't know he's only been grappling for like 3 years. And now he's fighting at the highest level, and he's never lost at 155.
When's his next fight?
June 27th.
Right before Fusion.
Yeah, for the PFL. He's on that PFL card in Chicago. He's fighting a kid, Ronnie Gibbs, who's 7-1 as an amateur and 1-0 as a pro.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, we will have to check that out. Barat was asking, what weight class does he fight in?
155.
155. All right. Very cool. So this is somebody to look out for. Obviously, sounds like he doesn't show off the fact that of his lineage that he's Muhammad Ali's grandson. But I got to say, like, to me as a fan, that's exciting. That's cool to see that boxing legacy now translate into mixed martial arts. Very, very cool, and very cool to hear what an athlete he is. We got a couple other comments from Tehran. Tehran talking about Patchy Mix. I'm a believer in Patchy. I believe he turns things around in his next fight. I was watching Patchy in Bellator and PFL. Let's go. So we will see Patchy Mix back. Guys, overall, I think we can agree, in my opinion, UFC 316 this past weekend, which we spent the majority of the show talking about, I thought it was a great event. I know we talked earlier last week and the week before how people were talking negatively about this card. I thought it was a good card from the get-go, and I think it proved just that. A lot of great fights, really interesting outcomes, and the UFC is alive and well, and we shall see what's going to go down with all these future matchups with whether it's Merab, Kayla Harrison, Kevin Holland, etc. Anyways, that is it for today for our Monday show, guys. Thank you so much for joining. We had a bunch of people on the stream today. Really appreciate all the engagement. And again, we're going to be back this Friday, 1:30 p.m. PST. Monday, Friday, 1:30, same time. We will be here. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take it easy.